Bi-representation is often not great. If we don't get a straight-up evil, depraved, sadist villain, we get an overly sexual cheater, or someone who makes unwanted sexual advances. Characters that are bisexual in source materials are made either homosexual or heterosexual in adaptations, and sometimes being bi is presented as being just a phase that you go through. While good mainstream bi characters do exist, the lack of decent representation is enough to make some bi fans do one of two things. Either headcanon that a character that isn't bi is, or accept the bad representation. In some cases, seeing yourself in a bad character can be a good thing. If you see their faults and compare them to your own faults and adjust accordingly, you can use that representation as a way to embolden yourself. Other times, though, unfortunately, negative representation reinforces internalized acceptance of stereotypes and complacency in the face of cliches. This doesn't mean it's inherently bad to like trashy representation, just that we should be careful not to encourage identification with destructive behaviors. And one of the most popular bisexual characters in US media right now is Poison Ivy from DC Comics. Originally introduced as a straw feminist with an unquenchable thirst for Batman, over the years since her 1966 debut she's alternated between obvious straight man sexist fantasy and flirting with bisexuality. But, starting with Batman the Animated Series, Ivy was very heavily implied to be in a romantic relationship with Harley Quinn. Fans loved this, and as to why I'll address, but eventually this moved from implication to overt representation. Both Quinn and Ivy are interested in men and women explicitly, and aren't closeted or self-hating, so a lot of people, of many sexualities, like this pairing. But I've always been hesitant to accept Ivy as representation. Why? Because she relies on the same tired biphobic stereotypes and myths as any of the characters made to make straight people scared of bisexual people. Don't see what I mean? Well, what do straight people fear bisexual people will do, more than anything? They fear they will sexually assault them. And Poison Ivy, no matter how you look at it, is a sexual assailant. She regularly sexually assaults Batman. In Batman Hush, it's implied that she rapes Superman. In Supergirl Volume 5, she sexually assaults Supergirl. In Batman and Robin Adventures 8, she sexually assaults Robin and is implied to force him to perform further sexual acts upon her. In the movie adaptation of Hush, she forcefully kisses a clearly uncomfortable Catwoman. In the new Harley Quinn series, she kisses a group of 13-year-olds and insults them, the 13-year-olds, for being virgins. In Batman the Animated Series, she seemingly rapes Stephen Carlyle and keeps him hostage. In the New 52, she sexually assaults a mind-washed Clayface. And I'm not even getting into all of the unnamed or minor characters that she sexually assaults for her crimes or her pleasure. So though I'm not saying Poison Ivy can't be bi, why is she, and Harley, who by extension is cool with her sexual assaults, taken as the best representation since sliced bread? Especially when in DC we have great characters like Grace Choi, Brainiac 5, John Constantine, and even freaking Wonder Woman serving up representation. Why these two? Is it because they're popular? Sure, they're more popular than, say, Coagula or Catman, but they're not as popular as Wonder Woman. Is it because they're attractive to straight men? Well, I'm sure that's part of it. Straight men aren't the ones writing about how great it is that Poison Ivy is an LGBTQ+ icon. Is it because they're marketable, being villains, so when they go against societal norms it's expected? I guess that's possible, but I think it's a combination of these and another reason. I don't think people, at large anyway, think of Poison Ivy's actions as sexual assault. And that's horrible. She molests children, and she's not seen as even close to one of the more evil Batman villains. Now, why is that? Well, probably because she's a conventionally attractive woman. First of all, women are already believed by many to be incapable of rape, whether the victim be man or woman. Men are portrayed as perpetually up for sex, which is another lie that only hurts victims. Add on to that the disgusting implication that if a victim finds her assailant attractive or is aroused at the time, it's not assault, and Poison Ivy's evil doesn't even warrant a raised eyebrow. And it's not the fault of bisexual fans that these assaults are routinely ignored in-universe. That's up to the writers, the majority of whom are not openly bi. But when the fans excuse or overlook sexual assault by a character because they fit into the box of representation that they want, they do a disservice to victims of assault in the real world. This doesn't mean that you can't like Poison Ivy as a character, of course. I like Darth Vader and am very much opposed to telekinetic strangulation, and on a more serious note am opposed to his aspects like fascism and hatred. But don't forget that just because you like a character's design or personality, that doesn't erase or excuse the evil actions that they take. Thank you for listening. Before ending, I would like to ask that, if you care, comment whether my next video should be about The Rise of Skywalker or 2019's A Christmas Carol on FX. I have lots of ideas for both of those, but only really have time to fit in one video while they're still relative, so let me know which you'd rather see. Thanks again.